Lydia Harris vanished on a warm summer night in Elmont. But what she left behind was far more dangerous than her disappearance. The young journalist had been chasing a story that could expose a city built on lies, a company that rewrote history, and powerful people who erased anyone who got too close. Her name became a whisper in the streets, her work buried beneath layers of silence, and her truth, one the city of Elmont would do anything to forget. In the summer of 2016, the city of Elmont carried a strange calmness that no one questioned. It was the kind of place where people left their doors unlocked, where news rarely stretched beyond weather updates and school events. But all of that changed on the night Lydia Harris disappeared. Lydia, a 28-year-old investigative journalist, was known in the newsroom for her persistence. She had a quiet confidence and a reputation for uncovering stories that others ignored. For months, she had been working on something secret, refusing to share details even with her closest colleagues. Those who knew her best said she seemed distracted, often looking over her shoulder as if expecting someone to follow her. On the evening of June 12th, Lydia left her apartment carrying a black backpack and her recorder. A neighbor saw her lock the door and head toward her car, a silver sedan she always parked near the corner of East Miller Street. That was the last confirmed sighting of her alive. The next morning, her car was found near Miller Lake, less than 3 miles away. It was parked neatly beside the guardrail, the doors locked, and her keys still inside. Her phone lay on the passenger seat, its screen shattered as though it had been dropped. There were no signs of struggle, no footprints, no fingerprints that led anywhere. It was as if she had stepped out of her life and dissolved into the night air. The police launched a full investigation within hours, treating the case as both a missing person and a potential abduction. Divers searched the lake, but no body or belongings were found. Her friends gathered outside her apartment, handing out flyers with her photo, a face full of quiet determination, framed by brown hair and sharp eyes. Within days, local media picked up the story. Soon after, national networks arrived, broadcasting from the lakeside, turning Lydia's disappearance into a public obsession. Reporters called it the case that doesn't add up. Investigators learned that Lydia had been researching a local technology firm called Halcyon Dynamics. Her search history revealed references to data manipulation, city contracts, and false reports. But most of her files were missing. Her laptop had vanished, and her home office was strangely clean, as if someone had erased all traces of what she'd been working on. Detectives grew suspicious when her editor admitted that Lydia had refused to submit her latest story draft, claiming she needed proof before anyone got hurt. That statement made the police wonder whether she had uncovered something that others didn't want exposed. As weeks passed, the city changed. People no longer felt safe walking alone after dark. The lake became a symbol of fear, surrounded by memorial candles and flowers that faded under the summer sun. Rumors began to swirl. Some said she had faked her own disappearance to escape danger. Others believed she had been silenced for what she knew. But no one could agree on who or what she was investigating. By late August, when the search officially slowed, there were no suspects, no clues, and no answers. The city that once thrived on peace now lived in the shadow of a mystery. And beneath that silence, somewhere within Elmont's quiet streets, the truth about Lydia Harris waited, buried, forgotten, and guarded by those who never wanted it found. As investigators tried to piece together Lydia Harris's final days, one name kept appearing in her remaining notes: Halcyon Dynamics. At first glance, it was just another data management firm, handling contracts for the city's utilities, transportation systems, and public records. But the deeper detectives looked, the stranger things became. Halcyon's offices were located on the outskirts of Elmont, in a sleek glass building surrounded by security fences and cameras that seemed excessive for a company that only claimed to handle data organization. Employees were unusually tight-lipped, refusing to speak even off the record. Some had abruptly quit their jobs right after Lydia vanished, and others had reportedly left the city altogether. A week into the investigation, police gained access to a tablet Lydia had left with a friend for safekeeping. Inside, They found encrypted folders labeled only with numbers and symbols. When the files were decoded, they revealed fragments of emails between Lydia and a man identified as MD, believed to be a whistleblower from inside Halcyon Dynamics. The messages discussed a secret project involving the manipulation of digital records, including property deeds, court cases, and even police evidence logs. It seemed Halcyon had created a hidden system that allowed certain files to be erased or rewritten entirely. What Lydia had stumbled upon was more than corporate fraud. It was the rewriting of truth itself. The discovery should have been a turning point, but every step forward seemed to bring new resistance. When detectives attempted to contact MD, the email address no longer existed, and the person behind it had vanished without a trace. Even stranger, one of the officers assigned to the case was reassigned suddenly after raising concerns about interference from city officials. There were whispers that Halcyon Dynamics had deep connections with Elmont's leadership, contracts, donations, favors exchanged quietly over the years. Every thread Lydia had tried to pull seemed to lead back to the people running the city. Then came the first chilling pattern. 2 weeks after the emails were uncovered, a former Halcyon technician named Carol Myers went missing. She had previously spoken to a journalist claiming she feared for her safety after helping someone with data backups. Days later, another person connected to the company, a financial consultant named Mark Peters, was found dead in his car, an apparent suicide. Both had been in contact with Lydia before her disappearance. The coincidences were impossible to ignore. Police released a public statement urging calm, but the city was already unraveling. Protests began outside Halcyon's building, demanding transparency. Online forums filled with conspiracy theories about secret databases, erased crimes, and people whose entire existence could be deleted with a few keystrokes. Late one night, just when the case appeared to be going cold, an anonymous package arrived at the Elmont Police Department. Inside was a small flash drive with a single file named June 12 footage. The video, when opened, showed grainy nighttime surveillance near Miller Lake, the same night Lydia disappeared. Detectives watched in silence as a black SUV approached her car, headlights off, moments before all video feed abruptly cut out. Whatever Lydia had uncovered had reached beyond journalism, beyond city politics. It had touched something powerful, something that controlled information itself. And now, the ones who had built it were willing to destroy anyone who tried to expose it. The video footage from the flash drive became the centerpiece of the investigation. It was grainy and unstable, as if it had been copied several times before reaching the police. The timestamp matched the night Lydia vanished. Her silver sedan appeared on the screen, parked near the guardrail overlooking Miller Lake. Minutes later, the black SUV emerged from the dark road behind her. Its lights were off, its movements deliberate. 3 figures stepped out, 2 tall, 1 shorter, and they surrounded Lydia's car. Though the footage lacked sound, the body language was unmistakable. There was tension, a confrontation, and then silence. After several minutes, the SUV drove away, leaving Lydia's car exactly as it had been found. She was gone. The discovery reignited public interest in the case, but it also brought new danger. Within 48 hours, the flash drive disappeared from police custody. No one knew who took it. The evidence log showed no sign of a break-in, yet the file was gone, along with several other pieces related to Halcyon Dynamics. Detectives suspected internal tampering, but no officer admitted involvement. The case had reached a point where the truth was being buried faster than it could be uncovered. Desperate for leads, investigators traced the source of the flash drive. It had been mailed from a nearby industrial district, once owned by Halcyon. When police searched the area, they found an abandoned warehouse that still carried faint traces of activity. Fresh tire marks, coffee cups, cigarette butts. Inside, the air was heavy with dust and burnt plastic. What they found beneath the debris was startling. Rows of disconnected computer servers, power cables cut, and fragments of shredded documents that hinted at data transfers between the city's records office and Halcyon's private servers. In one corner, under a rusted metal shelf, officers uncovered a small wooden crate. Inside lay Lydia's missing laptop, her press ID, and a small voice recorder. The recorder contained only a single surviving clip. The sound was distorted by static, but her voice was clear enough to be recognized. "They're rewriting history," she said, followed by silence and a faint noise that resembled footsteps. Experts confirmed that the clip was recorded the night before she vanished. The timestamp matched the moment she sent her final encrypted email to MD. The evidence should have broken the case open, but something unexpected happened. Federal agents arrived unannounced and seized everything: servers, papers, even Lydia's belongings, claiming jurisdiction over the investigation. The local police were instructed to stand down. Overnight, the warehouse was sealed and no further information was released. The official statement labeled it a cybercrime investigation, but no progress updates followed. Reporters tried to dig deeper, but sources went silent. A few claimed that agents were removing all files related to Lydia from public archives. When journalists attempted to retrieve her published work, many of her older stories had vanished from online databases. It was as if she were being erased piece by piece. The footage, the warehouse, the recorder, all of it pointed to something larger than a missing person case. Lydia Harris had not been a victim of random violence. She had stumbled into the dark machinery of power, where truth could be deleted and where those who tried to expose it disappeared without a trace. As weeks turned into months, the case of Lydia Harris shifted from an active investigation to a forbidden topic. The federal agents who had taken control of the evidence refused to share their findings, leaving the local police and Lydia's family in silence. Rumors spread through Elmont that the investigation had been shut down because it reached too close to the city's most powerful people. The police chief resigned suddenly, citing personal reasons, and 2 detectives who had worked on the case transferred to other departments without explanation. It became clear that the disappearance of Lydia Harris was not just a tragedy, it was a warning. The few remaining journalists still brave enough to cover the story began to notice odd patterns in the city's records. Public data that had once been easy to access was now sealed, restricted, or missing entirely. Court cases disappeared from archives. Property deeds were rewritten with new owners listed. Even Lydia's previous reports, stories she had published years before, were quietly taken down or edited. It was as if the city was undergoing a digital cleansing. Behind the scenes, the name Halcyon Dynamics surfaced again, this time tied to government data security contracts. The same company Lydia had been investigating was now in charge of protecting the city's digital records. Amid the growing unease, a private investigator named Mark Dwyer decided to reopen the case independently. He had once worked in federal intelligence and had known Lydia professionally. Using leaked documents from anonymous sources, Dwyer discovered that Halcyon's technology was far more advanced than anyone had realized. The company's servers had been used to alter thousands of entries in government databases. Crime reports, criminal histories, and even election data had been modified or deleted. In return, the city had poured millions into Halcyon's expansion, ensuring their partnership remained unbroken. Lydia had uncovered proof of this manipulation, and that discovery had made her target. Dwyer's report, titled The Vanished Files of Elmont, spread across online platforms within hours of its release. He exposed contracts showing how city officials had authorized data erasures and received personal payouts through shell corporations. The revelation sent shockwaves across Elmont. Protesters filled the streets, chanting Lydia's name and demanding justice. But within days, Dwyer's website went offline. The report was erased from every known source. Shortly after, he vanished from his apartment, leaving behind nothing but his car keys and a half-packed suitcase. As tension grew, a new lead emerged from an unlikely place. A maintenance worker draining an old water reservoir on the city's edge discovered a tarp wrapped in concrete slabs. Inside were human remains. The coroner confirmed through dental records that it was Lydia Harris. She had been buried beneath the very infrastructure that Halcyon once helped build. The city mourned publicly, but behind closed doors, there was relief. The discovery gave authorities an excuse to close the case permanently, calling it an isolated crime related to professional disputes. Yet, even after Lydia's burial, something about the investigation remained deeply unsettled. Files kept disappearing. Witnesses moved away. The truth seemed to vanish the same way she had, quietly, efficiently, and with the help of those sworn to protect it. The discovery of Lydia Harris's remains brought a brief sense of closure to Elmont, but the calm was hollow. The official statement described her death as a workplace-related homicide, blaming an unidentified suspect believed to have acted alone. There were no further arrests, no follow-up reports, and no mention of halcyon dynamics. Within a month, the investigation was formally closed, and Lydia's name slowly disappeared from headlines. The story that once dominated every news outlet was replaced by lighter pieces: new infrastructure projects, city growth, and technological innovation. It was as if the city itself was eager to bury her memory along with the truth she had died trying to reveal. Yet whispers continued to move through Elmont's quiet corners. Some residents claimed they saw unmarked vehicles parked near city offices at night. Others reported seeing new construction on the old warehouse site where Lydia's belongings had been found. The area was fenced off and patrolled by private security, supposedly to make way for a new digital storage facility. It was the same phrase Halcyon Dynamics had used years earlier. Those who questioned it found themselves ignored or warned to stop asking. Even online discussions about Lydia's case mysteriously vanished overnight. Websites that hosted independent articles about her story began showing page not found errors, as though someone was systematically erasing her from the digital world she had tried to protect. Then, almost 6 months after her body was discovered, a file appeared on a small independent news blog run by a retired teacher. The post was titled "City of Vanished Truths." Attached to it were documents, photographs, and transcripts that appeared to have come from deep within city servers. They included meeting records between Halcyon executives, city officials, and law enforcement leaders. The files detailed how evidence had been destroyed, how public data was altered, and how Lydia had been under surveillance for weeks before her death. The documents were so specific that they could only have come from an insider, someone who had access to everything. For 2 days, the story spread quickly online, shared thousands of times. But just as suddenly as it appeared, the website went dark. The administrator's home was reportedly broken into, and his computer equipment was taken. The domain registration was wiped clean, and the digital trail ended abruptly. The leak, like every trace of Lydia's work, was erased. Authorities dismissed the incident as an online hoax, but those who had read the files knew better. The pieces matched everything Lydia had been investigating. In the following months, Elmont returned to its polished image. The city won awards for technological advancement and civic transparency. Halcyon Dynamics rebranded itself as a national cybersecurity firm and expanded its reach beyond state borders. The skyline glittered at night, reflecting progress and prosperity. But beneath that glow, a shadow remained, an unspoken understanding that not all truths survive exposure. Today, Lydia Harris's name is barely remembered outside of small online communities dedicated to lost journalists. Her grave lies in a quiet cemetery on the city's edge, unvisited and unmarked. But in the silence, her story lingers like an echo, one that reminds people how easily truth can be rewritten, how completely a life can be erased, and how deeply a city can bury its sins beneath the illusion of order. Elmont may look perfect on the surface, but for those who remember, it will forever be known as the city where truth disappeared and never came back.